Have you ever been listening to a creepy ghost story or haunting history, and you're like, damn, this is so enjoyable, but I wish my friends were here so we could experience it together? That's us, Gina and Catherine, and we'll bring the snacks when you join us on I Scream, You Scream, the podcast where we serve up chilling stories with a side of our favorite ice cream.
Every month, we pick a new flavor of ice cream and a new topic to go along with it. Werewolves, poison, cemeteries, you name it. From deep dives into stories we all thought we knew to your real-world experiences, at this ice cream party, we always get to the bottom of the bowl.
Cozy up with us every Tuesday for your weekly scoop of the most chilling histories, mysteries, and paranormal perplexities. Until then, keep it cool.
And keep it creepy with I Scream, You Scream wherever you listen to podcasts.
Thanks for listening to the Red Treehouse, where I tell you scary stories to keep you up at night. You can listen to the Red Treehouse wherever you stream podcasts. Just be sure to follow, like, and subscribe. Oh, and leave a 5-star review. And you can follow the Red Treehouse on Instagram and Threads at Red Treehouse Pod. The Red Treehouse is dedicated to my dad. I love you, Pop. A few months ago, our family moved into our new house. It was especially exciting for us because it was a new build in a new neighborhood, and we'd been planning and saving for a long time to make it happen. A few days before we moved in, we did a final walkthrough to make sure everything was up to our expectations, and that it would pass inspection. While upstairs, one of my boys noticed a small entryway in the ceiling of a closet. It led to an attic space where the HVAC and ductwork could be accessed. Of course, he wasn't thinking about any of that. Instead, he commented, "Dad, what if someone was hiding up there?" Of course, my wife and I laughed it off. Thankfully, we moved in and didn't discover someone living up in our attic. But it did get me wondering about real-life instances where someone either experienced it or perpetrated it. Phrogging, simply put, quote, is the crime of individuals secretly living in someone's home, end quote. Now take a second and think about how horrifying this is. The idea that someone could be secretly living in your attic, basement, or garage is bad enough. But now think about how you'd find out this information, because a Frogger doesn't announce their presence. Over time, you may realize something weird is going on. Maybe food is missing. Items are rearranged or missing altogether. Bed sheets, blankets, towels may all show signs of being used, even though you didn't use them. Or how about this? A stranger watching you sleep, or use the bathroom, or spying on you during your most intimate moments. It's not only a massive invasion of privacy, but a safety and security risk that you may never know anything about. To me, Phrogging is one of the scariest, non-paranormal realities in our world today. In this episode of the Red Treehouse, I'm going to tell you 4 true Phrogging stories, each scary in their own ways. What would you do if you discovered a stranger living in your home, eating your food, using your restroom, or spying on you? And are you sure right now that there's no one hiding out in your attic, garage, or basement? I'll share the stories. You decide for yourself. I'm your host, Will. Welcome to the Red Treehouse. This happened when I was in my 20s, and I was house sitting alone for a family member in the middle of the winter. It was freezing outside, which might seem like a minor detail, but is an important part of the story. A little backstory. The house was built by my grandfather for his younger sister who passed away from cancer a few years before. I was in elementary school at the time, and I don't have many memories of her, other than when she was in hospice care towards the end of her life. Everyone in our family loved her, and I've always wondered what it would have been like to get to know her. A few years after she passed, my uncle and his partner bought the house and completely renovated it. It's actually a pretty nice place, especially considering it was built in the 1970s. So after my uncle handed me the keys and showed me how to use the security system, I settled in. I was excited to have the place to myself, especially since I usually had roommates and never really got any alone time. But what started as a relaxing week quickly turned into something much more unsettling. On the second day of my stay, we got hit with an Arctic vortex, and everything was covered in thick ice and snow. I was basically trapped inside. That second night, I couldn't fall asleep. I just laid there for hours, counting sheep. At some point, I started hearing voices that seemed to be coming from outside. I remember thinking, wow, you can really hear the neighbors in this subdivision. Then, about 20 minutes later, the home security system went off. That freaked me out, so I got up to check the alarm. The screen said, "Basement door ajar." I didn't know what else to do, so I grabbed a knife. Not my brightest idea. Got the dog, and headed downstairs. Now, the basement was unfinished, and there's a sliding glass door down there. My uncle always put a bar in the track to keep it from opening, even if it's unlocked. When I got down there, the door was open and the bar had been removed. The ground outside was covered in snow, but there were no footprints. I thought about calling the cops, but then I remembered the stash of weed I had found in the basement and decided against it. To make things worse, I had taken a sleeping pill about 10 minutes before all this happened, so my body was getting heavier and heavier as I searched the house. Eventually, I just collapsed from exhaustion. When I told my friends and family about it later, most of them were skeptical. They said I probably left the door unlocked, and that maybe the dog opened it somehow. But that didn't make sense. The dog had been sleeping in my room, and there's no way a dog could remove a bar and slide open the door. What really got to me later was realizing that the door couldn't be opened from the outside. That meant someone, or something, was trying to get out. That made it even creepier. Anyway, that was just the beginning of the weird stuff. The next night, I was lounging on the couch, watching movies, when I heard a soft thump 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 against the side of the house. It sounded like someone was throwing a tennis ball at the wall. At first, I brushed it off as just the pipe settling in an old house. But then it happened on the opposite side of the house. Thump, thump, thump. The sound started moving around to different sides of the house, always in the same order and rhythm. It repeated this pattern 3 times before moving to another part of the house. This went on for about 2 hours, and I was really getting frustrated and annoyed by the constant knocking. Then, just as suddenly as it started, it stopped. Over the next few days, I started noticing things being out of place. I'd set something down, and later it would be somewhere else. At first, I thought I was just being forgetful, so I decided to get more organized. I started closing doors behind me to make sure I wouldn't misplace things. I even laid out my work uniform and shoes on the kitchen table to make getting ready in the mornings easier. When the ice and snow finally cleared up, I went back to work. That morning, I got up early, took a shower, and everything seemed fine. None of my stuff was out of place, and I was about to head out the door. I saw my shirt and shoes at the table and thought, great, everything's here and going smoothly. But when I bent down to tie my shoes and reached for my shirt, it was gone. I had just seen it folded and ready to go the night before, and now it was missing. I started feeling crazy as I searched the house, getting more and more stressed about being late for work. Eventually, I found my shirt in the spare bedroom, crumbled up in a ball and thrown into the corner of the room. I was so confused and frustrated as I made my way to work. Later that day, when I got back, I let the dog out through the basement sliding door. As I sat inside, avoiding the cold, I heard soft footsteps upstairs, moving from one side of the house to the other. I grabbed the dog and checked the whole place again, but of course, I found nothing. At this point, I was starting to doubt my own sanity. I wondered if I was slipping into some kind of psychosis. The footsteps happened again the next day. On the last day of my stay, one of my friends came over to help me tidy up the house before my uncle returned. We were sitting downstairs while the dog was outside, both of us looking at our phones, when I heard the footsteps again. My friend didn't believe me at first when I told her about all the weird things happening. But this time, I decided to stay quiet and see if she heard it too. Suddenly, she looked at me with wide, scared eyes. "Do you hear that?" she whispered. "There's someone up there," she said, pointing in the direction of the footsteps as they moved from one side of the house to the other. Then she jumped up and said, "I'm leaving right now." I had never felt so vindicated in my life. After doubting me the entire time, she was suddenly terrified. When my uncle and his partner got back, I asked him if they had ever experienced anything strange in the house. My uncle's partner said he once saw a woman in a white dress walking down their hallway. He also sometimes hears music playing from nowhere. Strangely though, my uncle's dog never acted weird during my stay. If he had, it would have freaked me out even more. I still struggle to make sense of what happened. Sometimes I wonder if there was someone secretly hiding in the house, living in some unchecked corner. But then again, I don't think a person could have done some of the things I experienced. It's troubling, to say the least. Have you ever felt conflicted after experiencing similar phenomena? Felt like an experience could be due to a person rather than a haunting? Honestly, I almost want to believe it was just a person. But if it really was someone behind all of that, I'd be way more freaked out than if it were just a haunting. I'm a 20-year-old woman, and for the past few months I've been living as a Phroger in an apartment inside a historic building in St. Petersburg, Russia. I found out about the place while working on a student report about old residential buildings with my classmate. Let's call her Anya. Anya lived in one of those big old apartments, basically a Soviet-era communal flat. It's a huge apartment split into separate rooms rented by unrelated people, all sharing the same kitchen and bathroom. Everyone has their own room key, plus keys to the building and the main apartment door. While we were filming, Anya mentioned that people in her flat almost never lock their room doors, and the main door is often left open because tenants could go into the stairwell to smoke. I remember thinking, anyone who gets inside the building could just walk into this place. Kind of shocking. Everyone usually locks everything all the time. She also told me there were 2 locked storerooms inside the apartment that nobody had entered for years. Apparently, they belonged to the state. Both doors were secured with a simple padlock held in place by a few screws. Screws you could remove with a basic screwdriver. I was curious, because in old St. Petersburg buildings, abandoned rooms sometimes hide interesting antiques. I forgot about that place until I dropped out of university. I lost my dorm room, and I couldn't find an affordable apartment anywhere near my job. After wasting a month's salary on a tiny, overpriced room in another communal flat, I suddenly remembered Anya's building. And then, I had a ridiculous but tempting idea. I grabbed a small bag, a screwdriver, and went there to see if I'd be lucky, or kicked out immediately. I arrived around 3 p.m., when most residents should be at work. I waited by the entrance and slipped in when someone walked out. The apartment was, unsurprisingly, unlocked. I stepped in, ready to tell anyone who saw me that I was visiting Anya, but the shared spaces were empty. So I pulled out the screwdriver and started removing the screws from one of the padlocks. My hands were shaking, but no one showed up, and eventually the lock gave way. Inside was just a plain, empty storage room. Not a hidden apartment, not a secret chamber filled with antiques. Just 4 steps wide, 6 steps long, a dusty bike, an old sewing machine in a wooden case, no window, a small ventilation hole and 2 electrical outlets, only one of which worked, bare concrete walls and floor. I decided to see how long I could stay there. The first night felt like an adventure. It got cold very fast, so I ended up spending the night locked in the shared bathroom. After that, I went back to the storage room. When the tenants left for work, I tried checking the unlocked bedrooms. I knocked first, and if no one answered, I peeked inside. That same day, I snagged a spare set of 3 keys from one of the rooms and went back to my rented place. I ordered a sleeping bag, a cheap heater, and a water filter online. The next time I returned to the storage room, it already felt weirdly like home. Turns out, Anya had moved out long ago. There are 6 rooms in the flat, and only 3 are occupied now. 1 by a mom and her kid, 1 by 2 young women, and 1 by an old lady who constantly goes out to smoke in the stairwell. I attached a thin wire to the padlock outside so I can pull it back into place from inside and make it look untouched. The storage room is right by the entrance, and nobody pays attention to it, so no one has noticed me. I put a small mattress under my sleeping bag. I fill my water filter from the shared kitchen tap. I enter the empty bedrooms to charge my phone and power bank, or use someone's printer. I shower in the shared bathroom. The heater does a decent job in the tiny room, though I'm still scared that the one working outlet will burn out, leaving me freezing in winter. Every day, I work, eat at a nearby canteen, walk around, and talk to people. Then at night, I come back to my storage room. I live a pretty normal life, and I don't pay insane rent. After 6 months, it honestly feels like this is exactly how things are supposed to be. We'll continue right after this quick ad break.
Sometimes, the monsters we should really be afraid of aren't the ones hiding in the dark. They're the ones that have been standing in front of us this entire time. My name is Rissa Montañez, and I'm the founder of Grave Moon Studios. Every monster has a story. We get to tell it. Coming soon to wherever you listen to podcasts.
I broke into an old coworker's house and proceeded to live in their attic to survive the winter. It started when I lost my job in 2020 and lived off unemployment. I lost my unemployment in early winter 2020 and had to move out of my apartment. I bummed around for a few days, trying to couch surf, but to no avail. Eventually, winter started getting more harsh, and I was getting desperate. In my desperation, I remembered an old coworker who lived in a neighborhood down the street. I went to his place a few times because our significant others were friends. They met at a company picnic and hit it off. Never really liked either of them too much, We'll call them both John and Jane. But back to the story. I remember where they kept their spare house key, and when they were away from home, I checked, and it was still there. So I made my way into their house. A rush of anxiety hit me as I made my way in. I was starving, but was too afraid to get any food. I just grabbed a bottle of water and made my way into their attic. I proceeded to creep around, getting an idea of where the creaky boards were and where I could lie down. The attic wasn't cozy at all, and still quite cold. It was also extremely dark. I, for some reason, imagined it would be brighter like the Christmas Vacation movie. I shifted some boxes around and poked around for a blanket. I found a musty blanket that smelled like cat pee and made my bed in a pile of Halloween decorations and other BS. I waited until they got home. After multiple hours, I heard the front door open. Another rush of anxiety overcame me. My heart started pounding in my chest. I also realized that you can't really hear anything through the floor like I expected. I assumed it was Jane, as I would sometimes hear her walk by and sing to herself. A few hours later, John came home. I spent most of that time sitting completely still. I went to bed when they did. The next day, I awoke to the sound of the front door closing. I put my ear to the floor to see what I could hear, and I could hear Jane talking to someone. Well, come to find out, Jane was working from home because of the pandemic. I wouldn't come to this conclusion for a few days. Due to this, I started sneaking out at night, and the few times they would both leave. Most of the way I knew they would be gone was by copying down Jane's schedule off her calendar on their fridge. Taking that knowledge and the work schedule John and I had, I could get a good idea when they'd be home. This continued for days, then weeks, then months. As time passed, I got more and more brazen, sneaking more food, having close calls, etc. The closest call was when they came up into the attic to decorate for Christmas. If you remember, I had made myself a nook in their Halloween decorations, so I was confident they wouldn't find me. That still didn't make any of this any less scary. Also, John made a joke mentioning how awful it smelled up there, like onions and cat piss. I held my breath, hoping he wouldn't search for the source. They left for a week to visit Jane's family for Christmas. During this time I showered, slept in their bed, and ate any food I could get my hands on. Once late February came, I felt I had been risking it too much. From sneaking lots of food, showering in their shower, sometimes even admittedly watching them sleep, I decided to sneak out and never return. During this time, I actually grew a strong parasocial relationship with them, and still have some of their clothes and random items. I feel guilty for this, but time has passed and I feel comfortable saying this, but I would never tell them. I have since started following them on social media, and still watch them to this day. They have had a baby, and she is beautiful. I'm a 19-year-old female, and am starting to become paranoid that there is someone in this house with me. I am staying in my mother's mobile home at the moment. It's definitely older, and the past owners didn't take care of it, but it's better than nothing. For context, I'm in my freshman year of college, and I'm home for winter break. My mother let me stay here, but she's been living at her boyfriend's house. Me and my cat are the only ones here 24/7. While I wish she came to see me while I'm home for break, I don't mind being alone. My family is pretty neglectful of me, so I'm used to it by now. I started becoming anxious when my mom told me she thought someone was living underneath the house I'm staying at. She lived here until she got her new boyfriend. It was a few days after I got back from campus, and the first time I had seen her in months. My mother said that sometimes she'll hear thumping below the house, and that her dog will sniff the vents on the floor when she hears noises. She said there's been some other strange things as well, like doors being unlocked when they shouldn't be, and cabinet doors left open. At first, I was extremely skeptical of her because my mother is genuinely delusional. I don't mean that in a way that's dismissive of her concerns, but she has some mental health issues. I don't know exactly how to describe it, but I'll give you some examples. My mother once believed that the Mexican cartel was stalking her and began recording delivery trucks in our neighborhood when she saw them. We live almost right next to a delivery hub thing that trucks are constantly coming in and out of, loading up and dropping off. Me and my sister became so fed up with her that it led to multiple arguments between the three of us about this so-called cartel. When I was in my senior year of high school, we had to drive an hour to school and my mother would take us. There was a silver car on the side of the road, sometimes with blankets over the seats, always in the same spot. It seemed abandoned at first, since there was never anyone in the car. But since we didn't see it every time, I assumed people were possibly carpooling. However, my mother thought people were being trafficked with that car and took photos and videos of it and sent it to the police. We never heard anything back. This is the worst and longest example. My mother is a teacher and has been for about 10 years. She has been in and out of different schools, switching from elementary, middle, and once high school. Towards the end of her time at the last school she worked at, my mother got very sick. She told me she thought someone had poisoned her water bottle at school with mercury because it wasn't in the place it normally was on her desk. My mom and her friend went to the school science storage looking for mercury and found a couple of glass vials of it, the type that need to be cracked to be opened. She took me to the ER with her, and I had to watch her ask the doctor for a mercury poisoning test and cringe as he told her it wasn't a thing. They did some other tests after she practically begged them to, and they found nothing in her system that could have poisoned her. I felt so embarrassed sitting there. However, when she returned to work, a couple students in her classroom almost passed out, and she could smell gas. My mother's class was science at this school, so there were lab stations in the back with gas valves. But instead of thinking that there was just a gas leak, my mother accused the teacher across from her of purposely turning on the gas to poison kids. I felt bad for the other teacher because nothing my mom said about her seemed to warrant that accusation. Long story short, my mother wrote a 33-page document on why she thought this teacher was purposely turning on the gas and submitted it to the heads of the school. She had me read it, and it was very unprofessional, with fully capitalized words for emphasis, and bolded and underlined and highlighted red. They told her it was extremely repetitive and needed to be condensed. She condensed it down to 21 pages. They told her that they'd like to talk with her in person about this, but before they could, she just quit on the spot and never came back to work. Everyone was extremely shocked, especially me and my siblings, because this was her only source of income. We were already struggling, barely having any food in the house because she spent most of her money on fast food, weed, and other things. So all of that to say, I was naturally skeptical of her saying she thought there was a man living under this house. My mother has proven that she is paranoid, and this would likely be another one of her delusions. However, I've been experiencing strange things too since living here. The first thing I thought was unsettling was the noises. I'd hear thumping under the mobile home sometimes, and my cat would hear it too. Sometimes he'd even pick up on things that I didn't. I told my boyfriend about what my mom said and the thumping I'd heard, brushing it off as maybe a cat or some other animal taking shelter below the home. He agreed, described my mom as something I won't repeat here, and said it was most likely an animal. My boyfriend has spent the night a few times over break to keep me company, and since then, he's actually started getting freaked out too. The morning after he stayed over about 2 weeks ago, I asked him if he had opened the cabinet behind the dining table. There was absolutely nothing in this cabinet, except old junk my mom didn't bring to her boyfriends, and I had no reason to go in there. The cabinet was wide open, and I make sure to close every cabinet because my cat likes to get into things. I would not leave that open, or even go in there in the first place. My boyfriend said he never went in there, and seemed a little put off by it. I have no reason to think he's lying about this. The next thing that freaked me out was discovering my spinach in the laundry room. Yes, I know. Just hear me out. I have to manually wash my clothes because the washer and dryer do not work, so I never go into the laundry room. There is a second side door that leads to the outside in the laundry room, and we used to take our mom's dogs outside through that room when they were here. I do all my laundry in the spare bedroom. I had gone in the laundry room because my old hamper was in there, and I needed to carry a couple of Christmas presents. For context, I have a hard time carrying things because I'm medically disabled. When I went in there, my spinach was on top of the washer, and it really freaked me out because I had only gone in the laundry room once at the start of break to get the detergent from the room. I also noticed that the door to the outside was unlocked. I've brushed this off by telling myself I went in there for something while holding the spinach, set it down and got distracted, and forgot about the whole thing. And my mom forgot to lock that door the last time she came over with her dog and took her out. Another thing that worries me is my cat's behavior. I work in vet med and am going to college for it, so I'm very observant of my cat. He's extremely well socialized. I rescued him a month before I moved to college when he was 8 weeks old, and he's been around tons of people and other animals since 12 weeks. My cat now loves people and is super friendly, never scared of any stranger or dog. At my college campus, he comes running to the door when it opens to see if it's one of my roommates or someone new. Genuinely, he's the bravest cat I've ever met. I take him on walks outside and he loves them and meeting new people, as long as we're not around cars. I've only seen him scared at a sudden noise, like thunder or pots clattering in the kitchen. But since we've been here, his behavior has changed drastically. Whenever the door opens, my cat goes to run and hide, ducking his tail and slithering away quickly. This is the complete opposite of how he acted at my college apartment. Here, if he hears something, he'll look around nervously, and sometimes even goes to run and hide under my bed. My cat might just not be familiar with the home, but we've been here for about a month now, and this was where he lived before me and him moved to campus. He adjusted very quickly to the apartment, so I feel it's strange he's been acting so skittish suddenly. I'm honestly at a loss here. A big part of me feels like I'm being paranoid and falling into my mom's delusion. But could there be someone here? A lot of things don't make sense, like the laundry room door being unlocked and the spinach, that weird thumping below my house, the cabinets being left open, whatever my boyfriend heard while I was in the shower yesterday, and my cat's behavior. All of these may have some sort of reasonable explanation, but I feel like I'm losing my marbles, and my mom finally got in my head. In case there is someone here, I've been sleeping with my pepper spray under the pillow I don't sleep on. I wonder if pepper spray would be enough if someone were to actually try to harm me in my sleep, or if I should have something else under my pillow. What did you think of these true phrogging nightmares? I know for me, the idea of someone phrogging in my house is terrifying enough. But there's something even more unsettling about hearing the perspective of two people who frog themselves. Have you ever experienced this before? Either as a victim or a perpetrator? If so, email redtreehousepod@gmail.com and I'll feature your story in an upcoming episode. As we close this episode of the Red Treehouse, we're left with these lingering questions. What would you do if you discovered a stranger living in your home, eating your food, using your restroom, or watching you sleep? And are you sure right now that no one's hiding out in your attic, garage, or basement? I've shared the stories. Now you decide for yourself. I'm your host, Will. Thanks for joining me in the Red Treehouse.